Good evening. Today is Wednesday, September 25th, and this is another episode of the Kevin Sports Show with Pat Holland podcast. Kevin, how are you?
Patrick, good. Happy Daughter's Day.
Yes, happy Daughter's Day. I had to get the obligatory social media post out, right?
Yeah, I saw
Um,
that. I'm like, oh, again?
I don't
What is
even
this?
know if they're real anymore. I see people post, I'm like,
Exactly.
oh, is it? Is it? But anyway, we
My
got
wife's off Facebook now, so I got to do it for
right,
her.
right,
The scammers, man, they just keep getting you and getting you.
right. Um, all right, so this is episode 3. And I think we found out what we knew was going to happen is that the fate has been sealed for our beloved Boston Red Sox. I think they are officially eliminated from the playoff race. There was a small mathematical, I think it was like 0.8% going into tonight's game. There was a lot of different combinations of things that needed to happen, but they lost 6-1 to the Toronto Blue Jays. I think Kansas City needed to lose, and they were up 4-0 against the Nationals. I
And you
think
needed
the
something up there with Detroit and
yeah,
Minnesota.
there was a bunch of different scenarios that were going on. Seattle won earlier, which kind of brought their chances of making. I mean, we knew a week ago that they just haven't played well.
The
So
problem is, pal, kind of like what we said on the show. What about almost a month ago? I think it was three weeks ago. Anyway, you know, if everybody else played 500 ball, we needed the Sox to play 667 baseball to get to 88 wins, and we figured that would have got them into the playoffs. And unbeknownst to us, the 88 wins, sure enough, would
that's
almost assuredly have got them into the playoffs. I heard on some other stations today, the best any of those teams that we just mentioned can do is get to 87 wins. So everybody else did their part
yeah,
and, and,
yeah.
and played 500 ball or less, except for the Red Sox, who clearly just yeah, they're
It
going to finish where we thought they were, but they did it the wrong way. They got our hopes up
Yep.
and then squash them in September.
The young
Actually,
kid,
well,
the young kid Fitz started tonight, and
yeah,
he went into the night not giving up an earned run in his first 15 and a third innings pitched in the major leagues.
that's right.
I think he went another 3 2/3 before he did actually give up 2 earned
Yeah,
runs. So, 19, I think it's like 19 and a third innings.
yeah, good start.
It's I think
First
this
career, right?
the first player ever in Major League
Yeah,
history to do that. So, and
right.
that was the acquisition, part of the acquisition from the Yankees in the Verdugo deal. So, you know,
And
in
the
in
fans have turned on Verdugo in New York, so hopefully we've
yeah,
got
I
the
don't
Sox
think
have gotten the better of
I don't
that.
I don't see him back there next year.
No way. He's
So,
gonna go out to the National League West somewhere. Go hang out with the Giants or something. It's
yeah, where they don't care as much about
where Correa's gonna die. I used to play a game
yeah.
with a friend of mine. Retired to National League West.
I mean,
Sure enough, to be in the West.
the one thing we know is there is no hiding from mediocre playing in
No,
Boston and New York.
right. I'll throw
And
Philly in there as well.
and
You know,
yeah,
it's
these major market teams, but
right.
it's certainly not the Red Sox or the Yankees.
No,
Um, you can get away with it going out to it, San
in the
Fran.
interesting yeah, I mean, when you look at Verdugo, and obviously I didn't follow him as close this year as I did when he was with the Sox, but near as I could tell, he did the exact same thing in New York that he did with Boston. Started off hot, had a week or two where he hit like 8 home runs, and then was hitting about 320. Was the darling of the town, and then stopped hustling. He clearly was in Alex Cora's doghouse the last couple of years. I mean, he was healthy. He was like a healthy scratch, like a football player, a couple of times. It's you don't see that in baseball, and yet he was in Boston. And how many times did the Red Sox just banish a guy to New York? you know,
Not often.
not often.
if
Yeah, Boggs
I
ended
mean,
up there eventually. Clement. I mean, it's been
yeah,
a
but
couple of trades between the
those
teams.
yeah, but those guys went there on their own after the fact.
Right,
I
exactly. Yeah,
mean,
Johnny Damon. Yeah, but
who was the other center fielder? But I think he was a free agent too.
Jacoby Ellsbury.
Yeah, Ellsbury. I don't think.
Um,
Yeah, I think he was a free agent and ended up signing there.
but but
Ba-
this was
Babe Ruth is probably the
Babe
last
Ruth.
Red Sox that I can remember that was actually traded to the Yankees. So,
Right,
and
exactly.
he is no Babe Ruth. So,
No,
yeah, I
no.
mean, he batted 233 this season, 12 home runs, 58. I mean, all subpar.
Right,
One stolen
exactly.
base, 645 OPS, 550 at bats.
Right.
And he's a career average 272 hitter. So that's 40, 40 points below his career average.
Do you have his number? What was his best average with the Sox? Do you have that in front of you by any chance?
Yeah, 1 second.
Put you on the spot. Sorry about that.
His best numbers with the Sox were he batted 264 in 23, 280 in 22, 289 in 21, and 308 the first year. He batted
308. Okay.
308,
So clearly remembering
13,
the Bruins on the
yeah,
way out.
30 well, 308 well, it was that was a COVID
That's
year,
COVID
right?
year.
Yeah, so
COVID year
50
for half a
53
year,
53 games.
not even a third of a year.
Yeah, so, his first full season, he batted 289,
That's good. No, I'll take
63
that.
RBIs, 13 home runs. Then the next year it was, 280, 11 home runs, 74 RBIs, and then 264. He's down to 54 RBIs, 13 home runs. So he's right around a 12. I mean, he's averaged about 12 home runs a year since he came
Yeah.
over to the American League. Um,
Has his average gone down every year for 5 consecutive years?
he 2020 he batted it was 308, 289, 280, 264, 233. Yeah,
That's 5 years in a row.
that is five. That is five
This
years.
week's trivia question: what former Red
And
Sox player set a
even
record?
even if you take away that COVID year, 2019 he batted 294.
Okay,
So he
so
would
for
have
five
gone
consecutive years.
219, 289, 280, 264, 233. If you take away the 53, the 308, which was only 53 games.
So
Uh,
if people watch this, Pat, before our show this coming Saturday, 9 o'clock on WON, we are going to ask the question: what former Red Sox player holds the record? I'm sure he's not too happy about it for
that was
7 consecutive seasons of
7th.
his
Yeah.
average dropping. And I texted to you. It went.
Yep.
I'll even give you the numbers if I could. Oh, it's gonna find it quick. Naturally, I gotta do this. It started off at 325, I believe. And
321, 28, yeah, 321,
got
285,
it.
264, 247, 231, 227, 128.
You can't get
So
much
it's
lower than
just yeah,
128.
it's just yeah. No,
And his
no.
career was over after
Yeah,
that. so,
essentially.
so if you know the answer, call in 766-1240 on Saturday.
Yeah, we'll come up with something to give away. A gift card
Yeah,
or something.
free
Um,
podcast subscription.
yeah, right. So I figured we would do a little bit of a somewhat not a deep dive, but let's touch upon the Bruins. We got training camp starts up now. Preseason pretty it's a small preseason for hockey. They go training camps like a couple days and then they get right into preseason games. So they started
Yeah,
this past weekend with the black and gold game down in Providence. I don't even know what the score of that was.
I did not.
I
John from
didn't.
Riverside, I know went to the game,
Yep.
but I don't know the final score. Basically, it's a glorified inter squad. What is it
Yeah.
called? The black and gold or the black and white game? It's
I think it's a I don't know. I think it's a black and gold, but they wear black. They do wear the black and the whites, but
okay.
yeah, I did see some highlights. I know like Coyle scored, Poitras scored, a couple other players. Their first preseason game was Sunday against the New York Rangers. That was at home, 3-2 loss. Not a lot. None of the real at least the top 6 played in that game. As far as forwards, they're really taking a look at Lysell. Portois played.
And he's off to a pretty good start this camp, I've heard.
Portois.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He,
So Sunday they were pretty flat. Some of these other players, the 2 goal scorers were Kupke had a goal, and Kuntar, who was I want to say he was their 4th round pick out of. I want to say he was out of BC.
okay.
Just a lot of energy. Those guys created a lot of energy. And I think they were paired with Brown, who they picked up last year at some point. And then both of the Providence goalies played. So it was DiPietro and Bussy
And
played.
Bussy.
They
Yeah.
split, so it was like half and half. So
Yep.
I think it was DiPietro gave up 2. I think Bussy gave up 1. DiPietro gave up 2. The third goal I saw wasn't very. It wasn't a good goal.
I heard it was kind of a soft goal. And
Yeah,
DPH did 2 last night as well to
one.
Washington.
2. One was at the end of the
2.
game, so I don't blame that on him. But
Okay. Yeah, because Junis, he didn't give up any, but he only faced 7 shots in a half
yeah,
a game. So,
yeah, they were flying last night. They were flying.
yeah.
I think it's
One little defensive breakdown in the first period. Brandon Carlo got that burned right by him for a breakaway. And again, we were kind of talking before we started. Is that an issue of Carlo getting burned, or is that I'm not even sure who his defensive partner was. Is there somebody new, no chemistry, somebody in the wrong position? Not quite sure. So don't mean to completely throw Brandon Carlo under the bus. But something to keep an eye on as this, as the season gets underway, because he's in no danger of getting cut, and Jonas
Yeah,
should make the save. So Coppersalo, I think is how you say his name, right? It's
Corpusalo. Yep. Yeah,
so yeah,
Corpusalo faced 7.
yep.
7 shots, 7 saves. DiPietro faced 15, gave up 2. Again, that last one, I don't really think it was his fault. There was a little
He
bit of
was super.
a defensive breakdown on the first goal. The first goal. This kid Sweezy that they picked up was kind of out of position and left the Washington player who scored kind of just open. But all in all, Frederick did play last night. He played
He did.
fairly well. I think Tyler Johnson played well. He had an assist. Lysell played probably his best game that I've seen him play. He was just flying around.
Would you say that all eyes are on him for this camp?
Yeah, I think this is it for him. I mean, he's
Yeah,
either going to make it or he's not, and if he doesn't, then they're probably going to end up just moving on from him. But he
yeah.
quiet in the first game. I think Montgomery kind of called him out, from what I understand, before last night's game. Last night. Last night? Yeah, it was last night.
Yeah, last
Uh,
night, Tuesday night. Yeah.
And he played well. I like this kid Merkelov, who the Russian player who came from Ohio State. He's
Yep.
spent a couple seasons down. He had an assist last night. Portois played well. And this kid Tufty, I think it's Tufty. He's a big kid, 6'6", 230. I could see him on the 4th line. So we'll see how that plays out. But he's a big kid. He's dirty around the net. Not dirty, but
I know you mean physical.
he's physical down in front
Yeah.
of the goalie. I mean, he's a scrappy kid, not afraid to kind of throw his hands a little bit. I don't think anyone's really fought him yet, but all in
The Bruins
all,
just need to go after some more size in the off season as well. I think they want to answer a team like Florida and their physicality come playoff time. I think they got high hopes for the coming season, and I think that they're comfortable with
yeah,
their forward. I think they just want to be more physical.
I think maybe not last year, but the year before, when Montgomery came in 2 years ago, right? So this will be his
Yeah,
third
this will
season.
be his
So
third season.
that first season, I think the biggest difference between Montgomery, and and
Oh, Mr. Vegas.
yeah,
Why am I drawing a blank on his name right now?
and not that they weren't. I don't think not that they weren't trying to get the defenseman elevated into the offensive zone, but last night they had 3 assists out of the defenseman.
That's
I
great.
like this
Yeah.
kid Osterley that they picked up he in the offseason. So he could
Bruce
find his
Cassidy.
way. Yeah, Bruce
Sorry.
Cassidy. Yeah, he could find his way into that bottom pairing. It'll be interesting. Obviously, there's a ton of depth there. Lindholm played last night, although
Right.
I don't know. I don't think he was paired with Carlo. I think they had them mixed. So I think Carlo might have been with Callahan, and then Lindholm was paired with Mitchell, and then Sweezy and Osterley were paired together, I believe.
And
Um,
Callahan, no relation, but from Franklin, Mass, and I believe a
yeah,
Providence College product.
I believe you are correct. It'll be interesting to see where this kid Ryan Duran. Yeah, he'll probably end up down in Providence, but be interesting to see where he fits in. I like his size too. They've definitely gotten big, which they need to. Brazeau had a nice goal, kind of down in front of the net, and those are the goals that they're going to get.
The
So
the
for
interesting thing this year with Potras is last year making the team out of camp, they couldn't send him to Providence. If they
yep,
were going to get rid of him, he would have had to go back to juniors.
yep,
They let him go to the U20 team in Canada for I think one of the best tournaments ever. I look forward
yeah,
to it every Christmas.
yeah, by
U20
far,
tournament, so cool. And then when he came back, I think it was a legit injury, but I also don't think they rushed him back either. And but this year, if necessary, they can send him to Providence. Though I did see he did have I think about 13 or 14 minutes in the first game against the Rangers. So it looks like they're going to be, giving them the opportunity to earn regular ice time. I don't think they want to just give him, 6 or 7 minutes on a fourth line. I think it's either top nine forward, and they had him on the right wing. They moved him over from center to right. If he's not going to get a regular shift, then I do think he could start the season in Providence just to make sure he gets 17, 18 minutes a night.
yeah. Get him that ice time. And he played almost 11 minutes last night. He was 80%, 80% from the faceoff dot. So it'll be interesting to
That was huge
see.
because as a team, they were not doing well. I saw the stats through 2 periods. They lost like 11 out of 15 faceoffs, I think, through two. So if he can prove that he can do well in faceoffs, that might be a reason to keep him around just on that.
Right. So, I mean, these games are they're tough to watch because some of these guys
Yeah,
you're just not going to see, and they've
yeah, it's
already
like it's like
spent.
preseason football.
Yeah. Um, Obviously the big question again that's still out there is Swayman and what's going to happen with that. I've heard a ton of different things they're going to do. Maybe there's a sign and trade that they're working on. I've heard Anaheim brought up where it's a sign and trade. He go to Anaheim, we'd get Gibson and their 2025 first round pick, which I would do in a heartbeat. I, you know, y- 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 I, we've gone back and forth on this, Kevin. I think
Yeah.
y- you know, I don't think he's as established as he needs to be to demand that type of money.
I know,
Um,
I agree, and we're working on getting from the Providence Journal Joe McDonald
yep.
on our show. He's been a Bruins beat writer, so I actually texted him yesterday, and I think he's still laughing at me. Pat, I said I'm predicting a sign and trade with Swayman. This was yesterday, and he said no chance. He said, "Who then is the number one?" And I said, "Okay, all right." They start the year with Bussy and Junis. Trust Coach Bob to round them into shape. Use the money on another goalie or another need. I said, but bottom line is I'm just nervous. I want to start the year with Swayman. I've been a Swayman guy. I've been a Swayman guy since before they got Allmark. I go back. I wanted Swayman and Vladar, and I didn't even want him to get Allmark. I was pleasantly surprised and wrong with how well Allmark played. But so I don't know if that's goalie Bob, the coach, that made Allmark what he is. In which case, is he? Is he the
Mhm.
Dante Scarnecchia?
Yeah. He's
It can make your average goalie good.
the
And,
goalie
and
whisperer.
yeah, if he's good, then okay. It's a and it's funny you brought up Gibson. I did a little research on Gibson yesterday. He's 31.
Hmm.
He hasn't put together great seasons lately. He has been a good goalie.
Let's
However, if you can get
let's look. Let's also
45 points
remember.
a game,
Let's remember he
yeah,
plays for Anaheim.
no, exactly.
Right. Same thing
You know,
that, that was the verdict was out on Allmark when they signed him. It's like, "Whoa,
yep,
why are you gonna give him 5.5 million? He played, it's like, well,
coming from Buffalo,
he
right?
played for Buffalo.
Right.
And his
Well,
numbers weren't terrible.
correct.
But and then he turned out, I still I
And
still I still think, a lot of this doesn't make much sense to me in terms of how they dealt with, if you don't have this deal already somewhat in place, how do you go trade Allmark away and kind of relinquish some of your leverage? Or if you're going to do that, why would you give up your arbitration power when you have control over that? And that's what it's there for.
right. I wonder if they, we may never know, but I just wonder, do they have something in place that they thought they had something in place? So when they traded Allmark, okay, yeah, we want to avoid arbitration. We're not going to go to arbitration. Everybody was hurt. Feelings were hurt
Right.
last year in arbitration. They easily could have brought him back to arbitration this year, had
And
him under
locked it
control this
for 2
year.
years. They could have locked
Um,
him up for 2 years.
right. So, but then they would have lost him for sure if he was that upset after last year's arbitration. But I- I don't understand where it dropped. It's he still hasn't played more than 44 games in a season,
Mhm.
and I think that's he's not going to get 10 million a year, and he's not going to get 8 years. But what is it? Is he an 8 and 8 guy? 8 years, 8 million. I mean, is 8 years the max? I'm sorry, I think I said 10 years is the max.
8,
Eight
yeah,
years might
8.
be the max. Is he a 6 and 8 guy for 48? Is he? I don't know where he's at, and now there aren't even any. There's no rumors coming out. Like
I just
I don't
don't
know
even
what's going
know.
on.
I don't even know if you leverage I mean, not that you're leveraging the franchise, but you put that much stock in a goaltender for that long of a period when they break
Right.
down quicker than other players.
Yeah,
I
and there's
mean,
still two.
Montreal signed Price to that huge contract, right?
Right.
And he was probably one of the better goalies to play
Sure.
in the game ever,
Right.
and he didn't live up to it
No.
for other reasons. I mean,
And
he
he also
had.
got and he also got hurt.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of other reasons that go. He's
Yes.
but here you go. You got a team that leveraged themselves, paid the guy 10 million a year, and I think that was before I think they had him at 10 for 10.
Well, when you think about it, it's and I keep going back and forth on this. Again, I compare myself to Ordway in the sense that I'm on both sides of the fence. It's play both sides of the coin. But you think back to Dominic Hasek, one of the absolute best goaltenders ever. I don't think won a cup. And who did win a cup in Boston was Tim Thomas, who we affectionately used to call him the poor man's Dominic Hasek because he was all over the place, all over the ice, and he wins a cup, and he's not exactly a Hall of Famer. I love Tim Thomas, but I'm psyched he got hot at the right time, won the Bruins a cup back in 11, but
Yeah.
but he's no Dominic Hasek. And Hasek, is one of your best goalies of all time. It's and again, Hasek was on Detroit and Buffalo, and I don't think he won. He wasn't the goalie on those Detroit teams, was he? That were winning cups.
Hasek.
Yeah,
He
Yeah.
won. I believe he did win a cup with Detroit.
Oh, did he? Then my all right. Then my whole
But
last minute and a
but
half is
just
completely wrong
but just go
because
back
he
to.
is
I
a
mean,
dominant goalie.
we can verify that, but just go back to, like, look at the Islanders, right? They signed Rick DiPietro to a 15-year contract worth 67.5 million, fully guaranteed. And
Correct.
I don't even think he played 3.
No, he was
Um,
he was he was he was done. It's he was
um,
terrible. He might still be getting paid right now.
Actually,
I'm
he
just look.
played 11 seasons, but that was included his initial contracts too. But when they signed him to that 15-year deal, they're paying him $1.5 million annually since 2013. and they'll
Right.
pay that through 2029. And they consider that the worst contract in NHL history.
Wasn't it Mike Milbury?
I
Dominic Hasek is a two-time champion. So I apologize for
Yeah,
not knowing that off the
right.
top of my head. Okay.
Um,
But Mike Milbury, I think, signed DiPietro to the contract. Is that his son or younger brother in net for the Bruins now? Is there
no,
any
no
relation?
relation.
No relation? Okay. So I do
Uh,
know Rick DiPietro was 1 year at BU before he went pro. So
yeah, and
can't
he
believe
was
I.
a. I mean, he played at like I want to say he played at like a public high school. He played at like Winthrop High School.
Oh, okay.
Um, but he was. I mean, he was a great goalie.
Right.
Coming up and did his 1 year. Um, and
So Pat, are you of the school that you don't need a dominant goalie to win?
yeah, I
You,
think it's been proven year over year over year that you can win with a. I mean, you can't win with a sieve, but I mean, you
right.
can win with an average goalie. I mean, you can also win if a goalie gets hot, right? I mean, St. Louis won with Billington,
Right. Yeah, you
right?
beat the
Who
Bruins.
who we released because he was
Right.
a he was a
He
no.
was
I
in
mean,
Providence on loan to St.
he was in
Louis playing for
Providence
the
on loan.
Bruins. Yeah.
Yeah. And then they sent him back because they had injuries, and they go on a run. He gets hot, but he's still
Right.
a marginal at best. He's a middle of the road goalie.
Right.
Bobrovsky, I mean, he got paid in he hasn't. I mean, outside of this year,
Right.
right? Prior
And he's been
years,
a top five Vezina guy, Bobrovsky, right?
yeah,
But he's earned, and he also plays a majority of the games. I think he's like a 60 game guy
yeah.
for them. Where I think Swayman will be a 60 game guy. Well, he was going to be. Now he's not in camp, so he's probably not going to be a 60 game guy
I
this
think
year either.
I think if you looked it up and did enough of the research and yeah, maybe if we have time we can go down the rabbit hole at some night at 3 o'clock in the morning. And I guarantee you that most of the teams that win the Stanley Cup have they're not that it's like you don't have to be the Vezina winner,
Right.
right? You
Right.
just have to be serviceable. You have to
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Be a
and I
top 10.
think that's
Be top
why
10.
a lot of teams build from the back end out,
Right.
right? And that's so. I mean, that's Edmonton's issue, right? They've never built from the back end out. And now they're
Right.
trying to plug the holes, and they've never gotten the goalie situation right. But they don't. It's the players in front of them. You can't beat teams 7-5 every night,
Not unless you got Gretzky and
right?
you are great here.
And then you get in the playoffs, and and they had a great run this year with. I mean, who was their goalie? I don't even know.
Yeah, Stuart Skinner was one of
Skinner.
the main goalies. Yeah,
So
remember him from the Simpsons. Skinner.
Skinner, right? So I think you can't leverage your salary cap to keep a kid as good as you think
Well,
he is or as good as you potential is. You can't lock him up for 8 years because he's not
well,
going to be good 8 years from now.
correct me if I'm wrong. If they give Swayman the money that's been reported, that literally gives the Bruins zero more dollars
Zero
this year.
flexibility. Yeah, they're
And
8.6 under the cap currently,
right,
and
and he wants 8.
he wants 10.
He
But
wants 10.
they're
So he
certainly
wants
not going to
8.
give, even if they give him 8, it leaves him no room. So I'm
Right.
assuming they're trying to get some bridge deal done. Hey, sign a 2-year deal at 7, and then we'll see how it goes. And
Right.
the issue is that his agent has represented other players who have stayed out. As recently as Nylander up in Toronto.
That's right.
Same
Yeah.
agent. He stayed out, and I think they finally signed him just prior
He
to the
was
December 1st deadline.
he was the last December 1st guy.
Yeah.
I believe.
Yep.
I forget what year. I think it was 21
Like 2 years.
maybe.
Yeah, two or 3 years ago. Yeah.
Okay, so that's the last December 1st guy, and that's the other thing. Who's holding the cards? The Bruins or Swayman?
I mean,
Right now it's Swayman, but I think the Bruins fans overall, I don't think they're clamoring for the Bruins' head, and Bruins fans in general are always clamoring for management's head to do the right thing. I'm not getting the sense, and maybe because the season hasn't started yet, maybe because the backup goalies haven't surrendered
Actually,
a five goal game, in the regular season.
the
The season's not
Nylander, the
underway yet.
Nylander contract was up at the end of 2020, so he just signed that last year. So it was going into last season.
Okay,
So he signed from 2024 to 2031, 8-year, 92 million, including a
so he
69
got he
$69
he
million
got his
signing
money.
bonus.
So that's interesting because Toronto, well, things are different up in Toronto. As much as Boston's a hockey town, Toronto is like they're like the Red Sox and Yankee up in Toronto for hockey.
Yeah,
I think
that's
they
it.
react to their fans. I don't know if the Bruins have a very passionate fan base, but I don't know if Bruins management will cave
No,
to the fans'
no,
demand.
but I think the Bruins fan base is probably split on this
Yeah,
anyway. Like, I wouldn't pay the guy. I wouldn't give him 10 years or 8 years at 10 million.
years, right?
Move on
No,
from him. We got
I'm thinking
Corpusalo. You're paying him 3.
right.
So let's, we'll ride with him. You got these 2 younger goalies that you just re-signed at, league minimum 725 down in Providence, DiPietro and Bussy. And then if you have to, you can go out and find someone for cheap
In
money.
I didn't get to a Providence Bruins game last year, but if I'm not mistaken, they had a good record last year. Which a good record in the AHL tells me that they had some decent goaltending. I saw the stats of some of the players. You're looking at like a point 914 save percentage in that range, so 91 to 92% save percentage. That's what that seems to be about average. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it below 90. Start getting into 89, 88, then then you got a sieve in that. But you want to start hanging around 91, 91.4. I'm okay with that, and
Yeah,
if you get someone like Marchand coming off 3 surgeries, you might need some extra money to go fill a top 6 forward spot.
for sure. Um, so Marchand supposedly is back skating, non-contact now. Supposedly he's expected to be ready to go.
Yeah,
Lindholm is not he's not going to play in the preseason. Some sort of injury that I'm assuming is probably some sort of muscle or lower body, something like
he
that.
didn't play. He wasn't in there last night.
The
He
other
was.
Lindholm,
Oh, the other. That's right. There's 2 now. The
yeah,
other
the center, the new
Elias.
acquisition,
Right. Yep. You're right.
Elias, right? Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
I knew that, but I didn't know.
but Marchand had 3 surgeries
Reese.
or
Yeah.
something.
Good.
Yeah, like a
Groin.
sports
Abdominal.
injury, and yeah,
Yeah.
so
Well,
I I'd like to see them, not rush him back.
right.
Um,
Yeah, if they can hold off on him, even give him another 2 or 3 weeks. I want him in the playoffs healthy, not needing 3 surgeries when the playoffs end. Bergeron
right.
was always good for that. Every year, Bergeron at the end of the playoffs
Yeah, you
always got
find out.
another rib, broken leg, broken wrist.
So I was just looking up Bussy's stats. I mean, he played 41 games in Providence, 2.67, 913 save percentage.
Nine
Was
one three.
23, 10, and 5 last
That's a good
season.
record.
Yeah.
Goals against is a little high, but I always like save percentage. Anyway, obviously I want a big save. If he's facing 40, 45 shots a game, his goals against average might be up a little bit higher than I want. But I can live with a 2.67.
Let me get
I didn't see him play. I don't know, how reliable he is. They just signed another Finnish goalie too. I think he's 30. He's only had a couple
he
cups
played
of coffee.
two games in
Yeah,
NHL, one with Toronto, one with Nashville. I
right.
want to say he was like Corpusalo's roommate in
Okay.
college over in
Oh, no
Finland.
kidding.
Um, so yeah, let's see. Michael DiPietro, who I think they are fairly high on. Um, he played 30 games last year, 2.51 with a 9.918 save percentage.
918. So that's
18
closing in on
9 18 9 and 2
Again, a good
And I
record.
want to say I think Providence had a couple other goalies that they had in there, like
Well, then
journeyman
you bring
type.
some in from the
Yeah,
East Coast
yeah,
leagues, a
yeah.
couple of people on loan. You got an injury. It's also possible those guys. I don't remember them dressing for Boston, but they may have been called up to sit if
Uh,
Allmark or Swayman went
I
down.
think
Bussy
I think
sit.
Bussy came up in sat, and he might have even played a game last year.
If he did, I don't remember him getting into a game, but he may have. It's so
Um,
it's real interesting. In we've been talking about it, since the middle of the summer. Since we teamed up as co-hosts, seems like Swayman's name has come up each week, and and we're talking about the same things now that we talked about in July. Only it's only we're a week away from the season, a week and a half away from the season starting. Right? No,
yeah,
yeah, a
yeah,
little
they're
over a week.
a little over a week.
Yeah.
So I'm not at this point. I'm not. I'm not really sure what's going to happen. Do they get something done? I'd like to think that they're going to.
The
Um,
the other thing, Pat, too, and I just heard this in the Bruins game last night. I think they said it. I'm not sure if they said it right before the game or in between periods. It used to be a 9-game preseason schedule, and they cut that down to 6. Um, I never really paid too much attention, other than as a kid, they used to go to the Providence Civic Center and they go around New England playing a couple of preseason games. But by going down to 6, they've already played. I don't count the black and white game, but they've already played 2. Game number 3 is Thursday night. Game number 4 is Saturday night. So that's 4 out of 6. If
yeah,
Swayman signs right now at 10:30 on September 25th, he's still not playing tomorrow, and he's still not playing Saturday. So at
right.
most, that gives him 2 preseason games before the regular season starts. Short story long here, he's not ready to start the opener in my mind. I'm sure he's working out.
Yeah, I'm
I don't
sure
know
he's
who's
skating, and yeah, I'm sure
yeah.
he's skating, and
I don't know who's putting
but
pucks on net on him.
right.
All
No,
of his friends and teammates are in Boston practicing.
yeah, he was
Unless
skating
he's up
with
at
them prior
Maine.
to training camp, but
He might be up in University of Maine, doing
could
some
be.
captains practices with them. I wouldn't be surprised. I should say a lot of players, but you do hear of that. I'm
Sure.
completely making that up. I have no idea. I just know that I'm sure if he wanted to skate and see some pucks on net, he
There's
could
play
probably
yeah,
go up to Maine and get some
yeah, he
pucks
can
on him.
find some place to go. Sure, certainly.
Exactly. Maybe
Um,
even over at Providence College as well, if he wanted to stay, or up in the BC
yeah,
Northeastern, Harvard up that way as well. So if he wanted to remain in the area, I would think he would stay in New England. He's from Alaska. I doubt he would go all the way back there.
no,
Interesting if they ever did the sign and trade with Anaheim, that does put him closer to home. You're not going to get
it
much closer to
does.
home as an Alaska
It,
native
it
than
does.
Anaheim.
It'll be interesting to see if that happens. I mean, the thing about the sign and trade is like they're gonna have to, they're gonna have to give him what he wants, right? First of all,
Right.
um,
And then a team
but
like
but
Anaheim
any
would have to want to do it, or
yeah,
whoever.
but any team. Well, I think the difference is if you do a sign and trade, you get whoever, you're going to give us Gibson in your first round pick. If they offered him a contract, Anaheim could still say, "Hey, we'll give you 8 in 10,"
Right.
right? And then the Bruins would have to match it, and if they decline to match it, I believe they get like 2 first round picks.
It's something crazy. It's why it never
Which is
happens.
why it usually doesn't happen.
Right. The payment is pretty steep. So
So
and
I
yes,
think maybe that was the protection that the Bruins felt they had. Well, nobody's going to offer him what he wants because if we let him go, then
right,
we're going to get capital back in return, and nobody's going to give up that type of capital unless you're the
right.
Bruins. I'm sure the Bruins would have,
But,
if
but
you
the
know.
bottom line, though, we're about 65 days away from him not being able to have a season at all because
Yeah,
December 1st rolls
and
around and no contract. And I don't know if it's December 1st at midnight or November 30th at midnight, but December 1st rolls around or December 2nd for sure, midnight rolls around. There's no contract. He can't play anywhere
and
this year.
I still stand by my statement that would be career suicide for him.
To take a
As
year
a
off,
goalie,
not
there's
because of
no
an
way
injury.
you can't just sit out a full season and then expect to jump back in the following season and be I don't care how young you are.
Well,
I mean,
and even if he does, I don't think. again, back to the original point, 20 minutes ago, he hasn't proven himself to earn the money that we all think he's asking for. And so he's not going to get that money if he misses a year. He's actually going to get less, I think, unless you got some team like I'm just making this up. Columbus Blue Jackets has a horrible year, has no goaltending, and they decide to overpay for him. That's the only thing I could think of. You got a team that's so desperate, and maybe Columbus has a goalie. I'm just picking a team that's traditionally not very good. Maybe you get a team like that overpays for a goalie, but that's
Yeah,
that's that's a heck of a risk. And you go into it in that situation, you go into a team that's not very good. The Bruins with Swayman, I think, could make a deep run into the playoffs. And something else I'd like to
sure.
maybe not tonight, but is Jim Montgomery on the hot seat? He's in the third year of his in third and last year of his contract.
Yeah, definitely.
So in
Yep.
hockey, they don't keep you around very long in hockey. They'll roll you right over. So move on to the next person.
Right.
So
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see. This is I love hockey. My brother and I
yep.
would text him back and forth. Yeah, preseason hockey. I'll still watch it. I don't care who's on the ice. It's
Oh, right
hockey,
now I
right?
got Vegas and the Kings on right
Yeah.
now. No
Um,
no score. No score. 5 minutes ago in the first period.
yep.
So,
Another,
so
just to kind of pivot a little bit. I think I sent you the clip yesterday. Another pretty cool story that came out
oh,
was Tortorella
that's
down
great.
in
That's awesome.
down in
Yeah,
Philadelphia. Um,
I put that in my notes to hit on this week for our show. Like
yeah,
as far
just
as that's
unbelievable. And people have all different feelings about Tortorella as a coach.
oh
As
yeah.
I mean, I've always liked him. I like his banter with the media. I think he's a tough coach. I don't think he's for everybody, but
Oh, he's like
um,
Parcells. He's like
yeah,
Belichick. He's probably like Don Cherry was back in the day.
yeah,
He's tough to deal with. But go ahead, Pat. For him to do what he did, I think is
yeah.
incredible.
So he reached out to Johnny and Matt Gaudreau's dad, Guy, and invited him to come to Philadelphia's practice session. Kind of extended an arm. They're close, um, and evidently he took him up on the offer. And he's, the interview is great because he just says, at the end of the day, he's a coach.
He's a coach.
Like he gets it. And this is he's like, I've never met him. Tortorella said, I didn't really ever run into even Johnny or Matt in his
Right.
experience in the NHL or at any level. But it was just cool to see that. And they had the video of him on the ice, and he said that we offered it anytime you want to come out, and he was like, it took him a little time to get up on it, but then he started, he's like, he was giving me crap,
Yeah,
yelling
something
at
about the
them,
lines, right?
skate
The three
harder.
lines.
And he's like, how hard do you want him to
Yes.
skate? You only get 3 lines out here,
You
right
only get
there.
three
There.
lines.
He's like, yeah, all right. He's like, um, he said,
But yeah, at the end of the
he's
day, he's a coach. It was a
yeah,
great line. He goes, obviously he raised two boys that know
yeah,
what they're doing, and what a great olive branch to extend. He left, I guess, with the playbook, and
yeah,
actually, I mean, it's a legit offer to be on staff, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah. He
Or did I?
basically said,
Okay,
on your timetable, whenever you
right,
fill up to it, you can be a part of it. I want you to be a part of it.
right,
I think he, the way he phrased it was like, I think it's, I'm assuming,
therapeutic,
yeah, it's a therapeutic thing as a coach to be
right,
able to get, and that's what he has been his whole life. He's in, whether
right.
it be, he's coached at most levels. I think he played at the University of Vermont. And he's coached at a few different levels. I'm sure he coached his kids growing
I'm
up
sure
through
you did.
youth. And he's like, at the end of the day, he's a coach. I wanted him to come out. It was, we're not far from where they lived, and he was like, it's the first time I met him. Um, so I just thought it was cool to see him out there, and so it just another hockey. I think hockey is just goes above and beyond the sport. these players and in the, I mean, I saw it firsthand with the outpouring for the Hayes,
Oh,
Jimmy
was it
Hayes when
Jimmy Hayes?
Jimmy Hayes
Yep,
passed
yeah.
away, and um,
Well, I
so
mean,
and you see the outpouring of support for those guys.
and locally at the high school level, Bishop Fee, when AJ Quetta,
Yeah, yeah,
who got paralyzed,
paralyzed.
and just the outpouring of support. Obviously, not just here in Mass and Rhode Island, but throughout the NHL, and just and to see that with Goodrow's and with the dad, and there was a European game between what's it Hungary and uh,
Yeah, yeah.
uh, oh my god, I forget
It was like Latvia.
Latvia and Hungary, and they had a
Yeah,
moment of
moment of
silence for the
silence for him.
for the Goudreau's brothers, and I'm like, that's incredible.
Yep, world.
It's like back here, then they had that moment of silence for the player that was the former AHL player that was over in England that had the skate blade
Yeah, yep.
last year. I mean, it's just you hate for the tragedy, but the support from
Yeah, you've
around the
seen it.
world.
The junior hockey team, the Broncos, where
Oh
the
yes,
the
the
bus
bus.
accident that left. I think several died. There were players that
Yes.
were left paralyzed. There were players. I
Yep.
think one of them competed at the Paralympics this past year.
Wow.
But the outpouring of support for those guys, um, and then I mean, it goes on and on. Matt Brown up in Norwood, who was paralyzed, a high school hockey player, and that all started, years ago, with Travis Roy,
Travis Roy.
right? And then his foundation and giving back and all that, and that's BU still big on that.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, the whole
you know,
Travis Roy Foundation. Unfortunately, Travis did pass. But it
yeah,
was many
other
years later.
yeah other from other issues, but
Right.
it's and you can go on and on. And then here's a kid, Travis Roy, who was nobody knows how good he could have been. Like
Right. It was his
when he
very
went to
first shift
when
at
he went to
BU.
BU, he was like the number one player in the
Right.
country at the time, coming out of a prep school up in Maine.
Yeah.
12 seconds.
Yep.
That
Into
was
his
that
very
was it,
first shift.
right? And then even like look at a guy like Norman Levier, right?
Oh,
I was young, and I still
I I,
remember that
I
watching that
remember
game,
that. Oh my gosh, I still get
right? And here's another
chills.
guy who was like, he was expected to be, I would compare him to like when the Celtics drafted Lenny Bias.
Yeah, you could because
He was like
Olivier
that type of
when he was 19, maybe
Yeah, he
20.
was that type of player that they were
Right.
talking about. Lenny Bias obviously had other issues,
Right.
um, but
But I still get goosebumps when they had that last hurrah at the Boston
the
Garden,
last skate
and
at the Garden,
and
Bork
Raymond Bork pulled them
brought him out on
around
the
on.
ice.
Oh
Yeah,
my
yeah.
gosh!
So you know to see to see that. I mean, this is again a senseless tragedy. So
Right.
and it's brothers, and I mean just the whole kind of situation, right? They were in
Yeah.
town for their sister's wedding. The next day, it's just unbelievably awful
Right.
to even like think about. It's one thing to lose one, but to lose two kids, you never, as a parent. I mean, as a parent, you never expect to bury your kids right
No.
before you. I mean,
No.
so and
Absolutely.
what type of. I mean, I know firsthand. I mean, I lost one of my best friends when he was 20, 22, and I
Yeah.
saw the effect it had on his family, his mom. Like, you don't
Right.
expect to bury your child,
Right.
30, 40 years, but I mean, she's still alive. So it's just,
Yeah.
to see just that, how the react, how her life is now, it's like, it's just terrible.
Right.
And they
Well,
don't
so
have that type, we had a close group of friends and we've stuck together and, but it's different. Like this, the outpouring of support for these guys has been tremendous. And that
and
speaks
and,
to,
and for Torts to do that in Philadelphia, a team that the Goudreaus would never
not even a part of.
affiliated
Yeah.
with, like he said, but you know, and quietly did it. He didn't do it as a PR stunt.
No,
It
it
came
was
out. It
after.
came out that day when their dad was on the ice with them. That wasn't like it wasn't him trying to pump himself up. It was
And I'm sure it
legit.
was something that was, and I don't even know if it was that day or if if the interview happened to be a couple days later and they just happened to hear about it and said, "Hey, let's
Yeah,
ask you," and that's when he commented about it.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah,
It was not a
just pretty
publicity
cool.
stunt. It wasn't to exploit the situation at all. It was just for legit good intentions on towards, and it's yeah. No matter how you feel about him, and I've always enjoyed him. I don't
Yeah,
know if I would have enjoyed him as a Bruins coach. I probably would for the first year or so, and then and then probably turn on him like everybody else. But as a human being, to do
he
something like that,
he tends to wear out
is
his
welcome.
welcome everywhere, right? I mean,
He does.
he's been where? He was in Columbus. He was in New York. He's been in
Yeah, it's obviously
yeah, I
Philadelphia.
mean,
I'll have to look
yeah,
him up right now.
Philadelphia. Yeah, I think he's been around.
Yeah, he's.
And he's a local guy. He's a Mass guy.
Oh, really? I
Yeah,
did
yeah,
not know that.
yeah.
um,
Torts. I forget where he's from, but I'm pretty sure he's from Mass.
I'll have to look it up and see if I can find him really quick. Yeah, he's from Mass,
Yeah.
66 years old,
Yep.
and he's coached. He's been the Flyers
Concord,
since
Mass.
2022. Columbus, Vancouver, the Rangers, Tampa Bay. Yeah, I knew Tampa Bay.
Concord
Uh,
Carlisle High School. Imagine that. He's in the Concord
real local.
Carlisle Athletic Hall of Fame.
Oh, well, if we get him in, we should try to get him on the show sometime. you
Yeah, right.
know,
But
Tampa, yeah,
it's a
Tampa to the Rangers to the
hey.
Canucks
There's a
and Columbus. Really?
huge line of New England Mass coaches in the
Uh,
NHL.
oh,
You know,
absolutely.
so that's I mean, back in the day, it was like Minnesota was hockey heaven, and I
Right.
think that area, and then New England has followed, and kind of closed that gap on them, and so,
Yeah.
but
No, absolutely. And then you want to throw in all of New England. Don't forget about it. It's not even just. It's not just Massachusetts.
right,
it's,
right,
it's 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 everybody. So it's yeah, Peter Laviolette, right from Franklin. It's
yeah. I
Mike
think
Sullivan just pulled up a
he's
list.
yeah,
It's fun.
he's married to somebody I know's sister.
Okay.
He's a developer that I've done work with out of Rentham, like the KP area.
He was
So it's funny hearing about that. He's like, oh, he's married to my sister. I'm like, oh, very good.
that I don't know how many sisters he has, but one of his sisters, I met her husband. Uh, they're Attleboro people, and we got to meet Peter at their house
Yeah,
one time.
yeah.
uh,
Well, and he coached at Providence, right? He coached the Providence
Coaching
Bruins
Providence
for a
back,
while. I mean,
I
so
believe he coached him to the AHL championship
yeah,
in
you got
'99.
Laviolette, you got Jay Leach, Sacco.
Right?
Those are, I mean, all Mass guys. Quinn,
Yeah.
which I don't know where he is now. He was in San Jose, but
Mike
I think they
Mike
let him.
Sullivan
Yeah,
comes
Mike
up.
Sullivan.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot of guys,
Oh,
a lot of
oh.
local guys.
So I
Good.
think I think we could do a nice little hockey focus on our show for the next 10 months. But
Yeah, well, we
that's,
got hockey's, and then basketball starts up not too
right.
long after that. I think the Celtics play their first preseason game over in they're in
It
like
wasn't
Dubai.
Dubai. Yeah, did I hear that right? Okay.
I think they're in Dubai. I've been listening.
October. Yeah.
They had their media day yesterday, I believe. So I was listening to
Yes, they did. Yeah.
a lot of those interviews, and sure enough, so it'd be interesting to see how they come out. And
Right.
it's like, hey, defending champions. Now you got to walk the walk. A lot of the talking heads that are on the NBA, the Shaqs and the Barclays and all those guys saying, hey, they still, you had the easy run. Now you gotta really prove yourselves. And it's like, well,
Right.
yeah, hey, you can only play who's in front of you.
Right.
You have no
And I
control
really
over
hope
that.
they're done with
So
that easy schedule crap. I mean,
it is what it is. I mean,
it's unbelievable. You won a championship. I don't care.
yeah. So
It's incredible. So,
well, yeah. So we got the Bruins starting up, and
right.
like you said, we got how many games on HNIA? Is it 20 something?
Oh, we got Oh yeah, 20 out of 27 weeks. We got the Bruins, and 2 of those weeks we have the Celtics in February by themselves. So 22 out of 27
Right.
will feature the Celtics and
Yeah, we
or
can
Bruins and or Celtics. So
we can use this podcast platform to do a deep dive into the World Juniors. I mean, that is the
I,
best.
I I think the podcast and I think there's some great opportunities to bring it up on the
Yeah.
show.
Yeah.
Uh,
So, I mean, that's for me, that's like my favorite time of year.
yeah,
You got the Christmas, you got,
I
Christmas,
love
and
the
then it's
junior
like the
tournament.
next week, it's like, all right, here we go, World Juniors. And I
Yeah,
think they're in Buffalo this year.
I think they are. I'm gonna look that.
Like, I think it's Buffalo and Montreal, maybe, or I
Yeah,
think
they
it's like
haven't
a
come back to the state. I can't believe it. I started watching it. Apparently, they were in Boston in the
in,
mid '90s, and I had
yeah,
no idea.
90,
Six?
96, I think. Yeah, they
Yeah,
played
I could
at,
not believe it.
they played at like all the I think they played at Walter Brown, they played at
Unbelievable.
Northeastern. They played some games up in, Marlboro at the, New England. I always get confused between Marlboro and North Attleboro. What's North Attleboro? The New England Sports Village?
Oh yeah, it's the New England Sports
Yeah, so
Village. Yeah,
Marlboro is like the New England sports something.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forget now. I'm just trying to see where it is. Trying to look it up really
I think
quick.
I'm fairly certain it's in Buffalo and, like, Toronto, or Buffalo and it's probably not Montreal, it's
It's
probably
been
Buffalo.
right now, according and I'm on Wikipedia right now.
Yeah,
It just says Ottawa. I don't see Buffalo on the list. The host city is Ottawa, the host country Canada, and that's for 2025. 2026, Minneapolis and St. Paul, and 2027, Calgary and Edmonton. So I don't see any mention of Buffalo. I'm trying to see. They were in Buffalo in 2018 and
okay,
Orchard
so
Park. They were in
maybe I'm
Montreal in
confusing that, so Ottawa.
27.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, that is right, Ottawa.
They were in Buffalo and Lewiston in 2011.
Weren't they just in Canada last year?
Hold on a second. Just trying to look. They were in Boston and Amherst and Marlborough in
Yeah, yeah.
'96. Amherst. I didn't know about Amherst.
I think that's when they built the Mullen Center.
Okay. Oh, okay.
That's when
Okay.
UMass opened up the Mullen Center. So that was like the brand new sports facility before that, because that's when they added hockey. Kind of came back in right around that time for UMass. They used to play their basketball games. Well, no, the Mullen Center was there, but I don't think they added hockey until 95, 96.
So last year, as I'm looking at it, U.S. won. It was in Sweden. U.S.
Sweden.
won the gold. Sweden silver.
Yep.
Czechia bronze. Finland fourth. Where is Canada? Canada.
Yeah,
That
Canada,
if I remember
Canada.
correctly, that was a huge upset. The previous 3 years, it was in Canada. 23, it was in
Yep.
Halifax and Moncton. 22 was in Edmonton. 21 was in Edmonton as well. That's because they threw them like a bone because of COVID. It was supposed to be in Edmonton. I think they had it in Edmonton, but they had no fans, so they brought it back to Edmonton so they could play it in front of fans. So I think that's why it was back-to-back years in Edmonton,
Yep.
if
So
I'm
this
not mistaken.
year, the preliminary rounds: Canada, U.S., Finland, Latvia, Germany they'll be in Group A. So they'll
Oh,
play
so
each
maybe
other in
that's
the
the Buffalo. You said there's preliminary rounds in U.S.
No, I'm just looking at no. I'm just looking at the preliminary rounds for the. Uh, they'll be played at TD Place. Oh no. Group A is going to be played at the Canadian Tire Center, wherever that is.
I think that's
I think
Ottawa.
that's Ottawa. And
Yeah.
then Group B is Sweden, Czechia, Slovakia, Switzerland, Kazakhstan.
Oh, okay.
They'll play at TD Place. TD Place is in Toronto, I think.
Isn't Boston hosting something hockey related? I have to look into this.
Boston's hosting the Four Nations Cup.
That's
That's
it.
the
You're
that's
right.
the NHL players will play in that.
Okay, correct. Okay. So
TD
lots of good
Play
hockey stuff. Yeah, that
TD Place is an outdoor arena
it's not unheard of for them to go outdoors.
in Ottawa.
Okay.
I'll have to do a little research on that.
All right. I'll give us something to look up. So
But yeah, so My favorite time of year. I have my brother and I. My brother has my sister-in-law is from Toronto, so his in-laws are all up there. So for years we battled. I still think there might be a little bit of like, we don't really talk about it anymore because of the Olympics and or the World Juniors or whatnot. But
Why does
it is
Toronto hate this time of year?
Toronto
Yeah,
because
because the Leafs are already falling.
yeah, it's in 1967 was a long time
A
ago.
long time before my time, even.
Yeah, so I mean, you can chalk them up to the Jets fans, right?
Exactly.
Um, um, so yeah, we got that, and then that Four Nations Cup should be a pretty cool,
Right.
pretty cool. You had the top players in the world,
Right.
playing. And I think there are a lot. I think there are some other countries that are kind of a little upset that they weren't being included, but it
Well,
is what it
next time.
is. Yeah, it is what it is. The Olympics, and I think
Yeah.
that was to get them back into the Olympics. They started this thing
Yeah.
up, so the
There's
next
a
Winter
connection.
Olympics, they're going to allow the NHL players to play.
Yeah.
So all right, well, we should
All
wrap it
right.
up. We're an hour in. I think we should
Yeah.
try to keep it around an hour. We went an hour and 20 last week, and I think we maybe lost some steam in terms of people
Don't want to
chiming
scare
in.
people.
So, and again, we'll keep this going. I think the
Yeah.
podcast takes a little longer to build up
Absolutely. This is fun.
the following. So, I
Yeah.
try to share it on social media. We appreciate it
Yeah.
if you're listening. If you can like it, share it, subscribe. We'll throw it up
Yeah.
on the YouTube channel. It's on Spotify and it's on Apple podcasts. I'm looking into the other stuff. At some point, we'll be hopefully big enough where we have someone who can deal with that stuff for us. But right now, it's
It is what
we're,
it is.
we're figuring it out day by day. We had some
Right.
technical issues logging in tonight, which I think I resolved on my end. But Kevin, it's always a pleasure.
Yeah. No, it was
And
great, and it's fun. So at the very
yeah,
least, it's fun and it's sports. So
and
hopefully we'll see you tomorrow night, Hockey Night in Attleboro.
I'll be checking my email for the for our HNIA fantasy draft, which should be,
There we
I'm
go.
assuming,
Yeah,
coming up, right?
I renewed the league. Did that come through?
I didn't get an email, but
All
yeah.
right, I'll double check. I'll make sure it's sent to
I'm
you.
gonna play the Pete from Douglas. I didn't get an email. The draft was tonight.
All right, yeah. All right, I'll set
Right.
that because that's gonna come up in a week
Yeah,
or
if you
so.
could mention that to the commissioner.
Yeah, I'll talk to him. I'll see if I can get a
All right.
hold of him tonight, even.
All right.
So,
So I'll
all
see
right.
you. We'll be live Saturday morning at
Saturday
in the
night,
studio, WON 99.5
9.
FM, 1240 AM,
We'll be
and
broadcasting from the cheap seats.
yeah, windsockеtradio.com.
There we
Have a
go.
good night.
All right.
Thanks, Kevin.
Have a good one. Thank you, Pat. Bye.